Canada's housing correction may be far worse than the data is telling us, according to a new report by CIBC. Now, CIBC is one of the 5 major banks here in Canada, and its chief economist, Benjamin Tall, recently released a report titled Anatomy of a Correction. And the most important line from this entire report is this: home prices are too high to buy, but not high enough to build. This means buyers cannot comfortably enter the market and developers can't make projects financially viable. And when both sides hesitate, the entire housing market slows down. Now, one of CIBC's biggest warnings is about housing starts, because CMHC, or Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, stated that housing starts rose 5.6% in 2025. So on paper, these numbers look relatively stable. But Benjamin Tall, the chief economist from CIBC, thinks that this stat is overstated and delayed. Because here's why. A housing start is counted when the construction reaches the foundation stage, and not when the actual decision to build is made. So a lot of the projects here in Toronto and Vancouver, it takes about 1 or 2 years to actually break ground from when the decision is made. So the increase of 5.6% in housing starts in 2025 was likely a result of the decisions that was made in hotter markets like in 2023 and early 2024. So let me help you break down how a developer typically operates. So let's say a developer proposes a project. Then that developer needs to sell that project to potential buyers, because builders need to pre-sell at least 70% of that project in order to secure financing from the bank. And of course, they collect deposits from buyers, and then the banks will give them the financing, and then they will start the project. So from marketing that project to actually selling 70% of it and going through all the inspections and this and that will take another year or 2 before they actually start the project. But according to this report, the real construction activity could be a lot lower than what the headlines are suggesting, because no one is buying pre-construction right now. And some suggest that the real activity in the market in real time is actually about 50% lower than what the headlines suggest, just because of the lag. And honestly, that aligns with what a lot of us are seeing in the market, right? Housing starts are very, very slow. There are barely any projects right now. Pre-construction sales are essentially zero. There are no new launches from developers, and developers are trying to get rid of their existing inventory with a lot of incentives. Why won't the builders just lower their prices? Well, you see, this is where the developer economics are broken, because construction costs are still elevated, right? Due to labor, due to materials, red tape, interest rates, as well as development charges. So even though prices of materials have gone down from the peak in COVID, builders still cannot make a lot of these projects profitable. In other words, they simply don't have the margins to just keep cutting prices. Now, here's a bigger macro concern that the CIBC and many economists are pointing at, and it's more than just real estate prices. Canada's economy is significantly more dependent on real estate and housing than any other G7 countries. We have one of the highest levels of economic exposure to housing activity. So everything from construction to trades to real estate services and all the other housing related spending. So when the housing market slows in Canada, it doesn't just affect the real estate agents and investors. It affects employment, consumer spending, lending activity, and economic growth. And this is exactly why that CIBC is warning that a slowdown in the housing market could have a bigger impact than most people realize. And the Bank of Canada framework suggests that when home prices fall, households reduce spending. So during the boom, rising home values boosted spending, right? People took out a second mortgage or a HELOC and they bought things like vacation home, cottages, investment properties, trailers, cars, renovations in their home, etc. But a newer research suggests that the reverse may be stronger. So when home prices go down, households actually cut spending more aggressively. Now, CIBC suggests that falling home prices could reduce spendings by thousands of dollars per household. Now, multiply that by millions of homeowners across the country, now that could have a real economic impact. So the key takeaway from this report is that we may not be in for a hard, sudden crash, but it may be a long, drawn-out housing correction, because housing activity is slow. Construction has already slowed down, and if it continues to slow down, then that will definitely weaken the economy as a whole, because Canada is a country where housing plays a huge role in its economy. So the slowing down of the housing market can be very damaging. If you enjoyed this video, I want you to give me a like and subscribe, because I'm trying my very best to grow this channel. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.